When should my part be made out of sheet metal? That's an easy one. Always. Just kidding. What up, Internet? My name is Jake. I work at Oshcut. One of the things that we found while we've been building Oshcut over the past few years is when people are designing their parts, they tend to lean on processes like 3D printing and CNC machining, CNC milling, and sheet metal can scare people off sometimes because they think it's more complicated than it actually is. In this video, we're going to talk about some of the benefits of designing out of sheet metal, and we're going to talk about some ways that you can make it less daunting and less scary to approach. Most cases, designing out of sheet metal is going to be cheaper, it's going to be faster, it's going to be more structurally sound. Also, 3D printing cannot guarantee the tolerances that we can guarantee. So you're going to run into that a lot if you're trying to use a 3D printer to make your parts if you're needing precision. We offer a plus or minus 5/1000ths of an inch tolerance on our cuts, and then plus or minus 1 degree on our bends. Obviously, 3D printing and sheet metal are going to be completely different design processes. With 3D printing, you don't have to take into account anything except for the shape that you're building and whether or not you can support the structure with the inside of the printer, essentially. There's more constraints on sheet metal because you're not adding any material. You're taking everything away. It's more akin to CNC machining in that way, but you're also starting at a very set starting point with a flat piece of sheet metal and a shape essentially cut out of that sheet metal. One problem that I've seen people run into is they're using softwares that are designed for more artistic applications versus designing out of sheet metal and holding steadfast rules to your sheet metal design. So today I'm going to talk about two softwares that have these capabilities built into them and will help with your sheet metal designing journey. I'll be talking specifically about Fusion 360 and Onshape. Huge benefit that both Fusion 360 and Onshape are going to have for you is you're able to assign to your part sheet metal rules, and once you tell it that it's a certain type of sheet metal, it's going to hold you to those rules and not let you do things that are not possible using that sheet metal, which really helps kind of put up guardrails when you're designing, and it will help you kind of see how structurally how you can do things out of sheet metal. They're both free, they're both super user friendly, and they're both super easy to pick up. So let's talk about bent flanges and sheet metal. This is the part that is going to help bring your otherwise non-sheet metal parts to life. Making 3D parts out of sheet metal is what's going to allow you to change your designs from a 3D printed part or a CNC milled part to a sheet metal part using bent flanges. So the easiest way to visualize this is to visualize your part as a flat pattern cut out of a flat piece of sheet metal and think about the space that the flanges are going to be taking up as they're traveling to their final destination, and thinking about anything that could potentially be in the way, while also thinking about the space that it's going to be taking up relative to the press brake that's actually causing the bend to happen. I know it sounds like a lot. This is actually really easy to visualize using our 3D bend simulation that we have on our website. So I'm going to use this project that we've been working on around here. We're actually building a trophy for one of our customers. I'm going to use this to explain some of the basics of flanges and tube bending. It's a lot simpler than you think. So right now I'm going to create this structure down here, this box, and show you how easy Fusion 360 makes it. So I'm going to come down here, I'm going to sketch just a square. I'm going to make this square an 8x8 just because that's what I know the box is. And then I have a sketch square here. If I click this and hit E, it's going to let me extrude it. I'm going to go 1/8 inch. And then from there, I'm going to come into the sheet metal tab and I will convert to sheet metal. When I click this, it's going to let me select which material I'm going to be converting it to. I'm going to go aluminum in inches since I chose inches as my primary measurement. And then from there, this piece is now sheet metal. So you have to convert the pieces to sheet metal before you can start adding flanges, but once you do, it's as easy as this. So I'm gonna click this flange button. You'll know that you're in the flange option because it will say flange here. Then I'm gonna click on 3 or 4 of these corners. I'll do all 4 actually. So I'm gonna click on 4 of these corners right here. And I'm just gonna take this and I'm gonna drag it down. And it's as easy as that. It actually gave me reliefs for my bends as well. I'll then export this base to our website, and from there, you just check out. It's really easy. One of the services that we've added over the past couple of years is tube cutting, and more recently tube bending. This service can be a little bit daunting. It's more intensive to design out of tube than it is to design out of sheet metal. One of the things that we've done to simplify this is we've added all of the profiles for our tube that we have in stock to our website. So you can go grab the exact profile of the tube that you're looking to design out of and use that for your extrusion to design your tube. I'm going to show you some of the basics of how I made the top structures with tube. Bent tube can be daunting. It can be one of those things that seems like it's scary, but this is how I do it, and it's really, really simple if you just stick to this. So I'm just going to kind of create a little grid right here. I always do this when I'm designing just because I like to have all these points. So you can look at it from the top side and just make that easier, but I always just do a cross just because it's easier for me. For this one, I'm just gonna do one bent piece that goes straight up. But what I'm gonna do is I'm actually just going to use this, and then I'm gonna use that line to dictate where my tube goes. So I'm gonna have just one bend in this tube. So I'm gonna bring this up to the point where I want my tube to end, and I want my tube to start right here in the center and go up, oh, I don't know, a couple inches. We'll just go here. And then I'm gonna bring a line from that point to that point. And now these, all I'm doing is I'm creating a line where I want my tube to be bent in. These are just in space right now, and one thing with our tooling at Oshcut is we have 2-inch and 3-inch radiuses, but to make this super easy, I'm just gonna click on this corner, and I'm gonna say, I want this to be a 2-inch bend radius, so that'll be 2 inches right there. And now, delete this line segment, finish my sketch. It is literally as simple as this. Come back to my solid option, create, pipe, click this line segment. I'm gonna do a new body. It's gonna be 1 inch wide, and it's gonna be a hollow tube that has a 1/8 inch wall just because I want it to. Voila. Simple as that. Now I can hide my body down here, my bent tab, and now I have a bent piece of tube design that just followed a line. So now I'm going to show you how to use Oshcut's website. So once you have your part designed like this in Fusion, you can see this base is a sheet metal base with some bent tube. I'm going to export each of these parts, and then I'm going to upload them to Oshcut's website right now. So we'll pull up Oshcut's website. I'm going to bring these parts over one at a time, and I'm going to let the website kind of chew on them and make sure that there's something that we can produce. One thing that you want to make sure while uploading your parts is that you make your material selection before you give it the full green light, because it's gonna take your material selection and it will actually run it back through our simulations using the new material that you've selected, just to make sure that we can produce this item. So for this one, I'm going to come in here, I'm going to choose D-Bird. I want this top one D-Bird. For the bottom one, I'm going to leave it blank. I don't want any finishing options on that one. In the flat pattern, I can actually click on this hole, and all of our tapping, countersinking, and hardware options open up from there. And what's really cool about our website is it doesn't matter the size of the hole. I want a hole centered right there because it's gonna reduce the size down to whatever the center is. So I'll come in here, do a 1/4 hole, and it's actually going to just reduce my size down to the required hole. And assign a 1/4 tap on that hole. As long as you choose the correct tap or the correct hardware, it will resize your hole to whatever you've chosen. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go into the parts and I'm going to look at the bend animation just to make sure that everything's going to work out okay. So this is what I was talking about earlier. So this will show you the size and the shape of the tooling that we're using to make these bends. Next, we'll go into our tube part and we'll look at the bend simulation for our tube part and just make sure that that is gonna be able to be bent all right. It already gave us the green check light, but I always like to come in here and make sure that looks great. If this were to come down any farther down here and collide with this head, it wouldn't let us get that through, but this is a really cool new feature that we've added, a 3D bend simulation for bent tube. From there, you can then make your lead time selections. I'm gonna choose standard right here. I'll proceed to checkout. It's going to go through and it's gonna calculate a nesting discount from there. So that's pretty much it. That sums up the basics of sheet metal and the basics of uploading your parts to Oshkosh.com. So hopefully we see more parts from you guys in the future. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. You can reach out to us at support@oshkosh.com and we're here to help.